Hi, everybody. You're listening to the Oneness Junkie podcast, hosted by me, Lydia Smith, a self-proclaimed Oneness Junkie. Oneness Junkie is a place to be inspired, encouraged, and supported. Learn from the individuals who are working to make the world a better place. Let's meet today's guest. Hello, everyone. It's Lydia with the Oneness Junkie podcast and YouTube channel. And today I'm excited to introduce you to our next guest. I'm sitting here with Rene Williams. Hi, Rene.
Hi. Nice to have everybody here.
Yes. How are you doing today?
Doing good. I'm
Awesome.
Very excited about having this conversation with you, and I'm carrying on the banner of the way in the light.
Yes. Well, let me introduce why I invited Rene onto the podcast. So everyone and those who don't know, I created this podcast so that I could highlight the individuals, the businesses, or the nonprofits that are using their time and talent to make the world a better place. And I feel like when we focus on all the good that's out there in the world, we multiply that and we create more good. So I met Rene very briefly. I met her literally about 5 days ago, maybe. And she was a part or found me through YouTube on another podcast that I do. And we connected instantly. She commented that she related to some of the things I was saying. And then we kept going back and forth. And finally I said, I checked into some of the stuff she's doing and I was like, oh my gosh, I would love who you are. I love your spirit. I love your energy. It's definitely a kindred soul. I want to highlight you. And then we got on the phone yesterday and we talked about it for the first time. So this is actually our second time to ever talk like live, and y'all get to be a part of it. So I'm going to go ahead like I do with most of my guests. I've asked Rene if she would kind of think back and give us kind of a little scenario and a synopsis of like who she is, where she came from, what a little bit of her background, so that we understand when we start talking about today, how that's probably evolved a little bit from our, childhood, right? Like things happen. So feel free to introduce yourself and what you're doing right now.
All righty. Well, what I'm doing right now is I have a Facebook group called Carnivore Comfort Cuisine. And that is a page of like-minded people who want to do the carnivore lifestyle, which I had wanted to do for a long time. But I finally realized the only way I'm going to do it is to be able to have fun. I love being in the kitchen. Cooking is my love language. So I had to combine everything that is me into getting into this lifestyle so I would not get bored. Boredom is the cardinal sin of life in my book. But I wanted to inspire other people to not only have it be a page for recipes, but for an experience. They all know my famous saying is, my door is always open and there's always a seat at the table waiting for you. Come on in and grab an apron and we'll start rattling those pots and pans in my kitchen.
I love that. That is so cool.
Because, I came out of the Mediterranean style of cooking and the experience of eating Mediterranean, which was all about your family and friends at the table. And it was an experience. You didn't just come and go. You dawdled for hours talking and solving the world's problems and just, coming together, connecting your hearts. So
wait, are you Italian? What are you? What's your background?
No, not Italian, but love the Italian lifestyle.
Me too. That's another thing we have in common.
What is the perfect diet in the world? And you know what came up? Crete, Crete, how they eat in Crete.
Oh, Crete, in Crete. The island of Crete in Greece.
Yeah, so I just started, kind of investigating that, and that kind of led me into the whole Mediterranean lifestyle of eating. But more so about the experience, the social, the love, just the enjoyment of life, because I do believe in having fun, and Rene's my name, joy is my game.
Oh my God, I it's so funny because we don't know each other, and so many things you say are like firing off at the same. My middle name is Joy, and I believe that I was birthed here. My mom always told me that I was meant to be her joy, and that I'm here to spread joy in the world. So here we are, another thing that we have that we feel similar with. We're going to talk about your carnivore lifestyle later in the podcast. Will you go back and just introduce, like, where were you born? Like, how did you get to Florida?
Well, I'm what you call a Navy brat. I was born in North Carolina, but I went to 11 different schools before I graduated from high school. We lived all over the world, always picking up and moving, leaving friends, making new friends, which did teach me to adapt to life, but also just to, learn about a lot of different cultures around the world. But it also facilitated our family unit being very strong because it was just me and my two brothers, having to stick together every new place we moved until we made friends. And so that my father was one of 5 boys born to deaf and mute parents.
Wow.
They had met at a school for the deaf up in New York. And so he brought to the table a whole new concept of love and embracing people. My grandparents never considered being deaf a handicap. It was just, you're brunette, I'm blonde, you talk, I'm deaf. But my grandfather went on to become president of the International Catholic Deaf Association. And they taught me all about joy and embracing life no matter what. And, nothing stops you. You just figure out how you're going to do it, not if you can or if you can't. But so that had a big impact on my life. I've always been, that kind of gypsy spirit. And, my friends always say, when I haven't seen them for a long time, what are you doing now?
What you up to?
That's wild and crazy, all the things I've done in life. Including being a singing telegram messenger at one point.
Maybe we'll get you to do that at the end of the show.
But there's pivot points in your life that really change and get you on path. And I think mine came with conquering breast cancer. That brought me up close and personal to my purpose in life, and also with my own personal relationship with the Lord, to where I totally did an about face in what really matters in life and what's important. I used to think it was all about the big things in life having to accomplish, but I came to realize it's the tiny little things. It's, just enough light for the step you're on, that you go through life, and all those little things add up to great, big, beautiful things.
I love that. I've never heard that either. The light, say that again about the step.
That is not original either. Stormy O'Bardian wrote a book called Just Enough Light for the Step I'm On.
Just enough light for the step I'm on. I want that in my head. That is beautiful.
Yeah. But having to be still, having no hair on my body, nowhere, spending a lot of time just sitting in the chair, from May until February of the next year, it was a big, bad journey, from some perspectives, but it really gave me a lot of time to sit and meditate and pray, and wanting to have purpose even from my chair that I could, not really go far from. But I said, as long as I have breath, I can still do something. So, at that time I started a prayer ministry for people. I started, putting names in my book, and I just wanted to be able to do something. But what came out of that victory was realizing that anything's possible. Had a Christmas miracle happen 2004 because I almost died. I was supposed to die that weekend, but I had this miracle with little birds that came into my life in the hospital room. And that story was about, I was so distraught. And I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, can you just send me one little bird as a sign that you're here with me? And, I haven't seen any birds fly by the window. And so I prayed that prayer. No birds appeared the next morning. I was upset and crying. My daughter came in and, what's the matter? Oh, God won't even send me a bird. But she said, so she came back that afternoon, and she was a graphic artist, and she came back with this beautiful picture of these big hands holding this tiny little bird, wounded bird. And she wrote a letter from the bird to me saying, we're both in God's hands. We're both wounded, but in his time we will heal again. I went, oh, that's great. That's my miracle. Well, that was just the beginning. Suddenly, then one of the nurse's aides came in. She had brought me a little pin with a bird on it. Then my brother came to visit, and he brings me a feathered bird statue. And my niece comes, and she brings me an angel holding a bird. And my mom talks to my aunt. She says, that's crazy thing happening. These birds keep coming up to my kitchen window and pecking, like trying to tell me something. And, my mom said, it's just another bird coming to Rene through people that love her. And so before I left the hospital, my girlfriend came in. I was telling her the bird stories, and then she went, oh, look, I just saw a bird fly by the window. And when I leaned forward with all my tubes and everything, a whole flock of birds flew by the window.
Wow.
So just going to show you, whenever you ask God for something, he always gives you so much more than you can imagine. But the funny part of that story and the ending to it is, when I went to leave the hospital and I looked out the window, there was a brick wall there. There was no way a flock of birds could have flown by. They would have all crashed into the wall.
Wow.
So, but everything stopped at midnight, Christmas Day, what was going on with me in the hospital. And the next day I was discharged, thinking I was on death's doorstep. But so that was my miracle. And the moral of the story is that, I'm not anyone special. Miracles are possible for all of us if we just believe. And if you believe, you're going to receive it. So I just spend my life believing and trying to walk the walk instead of just talking the talk.
Yes, I love that.
Out there and inspire people to just live in joy.
Yes. And I'm going to bring up something I learned yesterday talking to you, and let's talk a little bit about that. You didn't just start doing this. This isn't something you just decided you wanted to do now. Like, when was that cancer scare? When was that?
That was 2004.
Okay. Because tell us about what you told me yesterday about how you used to interview people you did basically what I'm doing, but you did it on a radio show. Tell us a little bit about that background.
Right. Well, I did, when I graduated from from college, I had a degree in communications, and I went to work for radio stations as a female disc jockey. My air name was Rene Williams, your country honey. Started out in country music. I had to knock down those doors because I flatly got told, you could never go on the air. You're a woman. You would,
Wow.
The women they want to hear men on the air. But I kept knocking, and finally landed at this little old AM radio station where Hank Williams himself had stood on the floor with the microphones there and sung his music. And so started out in country music there. Went on later, fast forwarding to I had a show on a Christian radio music radio station. It was a talk station, and it was called Journeys with Christ. And my neighbor had started the show from starting his own personal ministry of actually helping kids at the local Wilson's Children's Hospital, because he found out that children who had a cancer diagnosis got all these resources and financial aid. But if you just had a long-term illness that was not cancer, the parents didn't have access to things. So he was going to do something about it. And he partnered with Pepsi to get these cans. They put a slit in it, and he went door to door around our neighborhood. Would you like to keep a can, fill it up, and I'll come back and pick it up? So he started that way. Then he partnered with Chick-fil-A. Then he partnered with the radio station that gave him free airtime. And so he started the show, Journeys with Christ. And I was like one of his first people he interviewed because of a blog I was keeping about my husband going through cancer. Like a couple of years later, after I survived, he got diagnosed with lung cancer and was dead 8 months later.
Oh.
But I'd kept a blog about the spiritual journey we were going through in, victory, either way you want to call it, whether it's up in heaven or down here. So he interviewed me about that. And then because I had experience on the radio, he said, I've gotten so big with my thing I'm doing. Would you like to take over the show for me? So I said, sure. And it was literally, I would meet people, met someone in a movie theater, started talking about, the Lord. Hey, would you like to share your journey of faith with me? I'll come to your house with my little microphone.
Basically what I'm doing. I'm just non-denominational. That's
Yeah.
so funny. So what year, can you give us an idea? What year was this that you were like when your husband was diagnosed and stuff? Help us understand what phase of your life you were in.
Well, that was 2009. He passed on.
Okay.
Right after that, I had the show for about a year or two.
Okay. So where's that guy now? If I Googled Journeys with Christ, what would come up?
Well, nothing, because the show's not on anymore. But Christ,
is the guy still alive?
Christ Starfish is the name of his foundation.
Because I would like to highlight him if he wants to.
Oh, he'd love to talk to you. And, the work he's done, talk about blooming and growing, that has just exploded across the country. He's, started helping a lot of different children's hospitals, not just the local one here. And you build it, they will come.
Look at you. I mean, something I told you yesterday when we were talking is that I recognized, the light in the world that you were based on our interaction. And that's what triggered me to know to connect with you deeper, because you were emulating the light in the world. You were being the light. So let's talk a little bit about remember before we started, we kind of talked about that. Let's talk about what that means to take initiative and be the light. There was something you said to me earlier, and I said, that's good for people to be inspired by. So how does that work for you? Like, have you just always known? Have you had a knowing that you were meant, like you just told us earlier, that you were meant to create joy in the world? Like, when did you come to that understanding, and how do you take action to do that in a daily basis?
I think I've always had it, but I've not always had the courage to express it. And I think, that evolved little by little, but the going through the cancer experience is what just took the lid off of it all and said, I'm not hiding it anymore. I'm just going to be who I am. And, Hank Williams has a saying, other people's opinion of me is none of my business. So that's my motto. And I just, if I feel it, I do it. And it's always about, I felt like I have this, you call it a knowing, I call it kind of a seeing into people's hearts. Like, I see the greatness in people, and I just want to help them bring it up too, because that's freedom, is finding the true you, not the one you suppress and, are afraid, what will they say if I do this?
I remember, tell them what you said about when you do that, what does that offer to others?
It gives other people permission to be their greatest light too, because we all have the light within us. Sometimes it's flickering, sometimes it's flaming, and I try to keep that flame going as much as possible, which does not mean it's there 24/7, but I do try and get up every morning and make the choice that I am going to be that light. I'm going to be full of joy. I start counting my blessings. Another thing I started doing during that cancer journey was I created a book, because, I was discovering the importance of being aligned. And the way you are best aligned is when you're in a state of joy. So I started creating a gratitude journal, if you will. I started making a list of everything I was grateful, all the memories that made me go, that kind of feeling. So I just had a list of a one-liner, but that would trigger the memory. So I'd stay in that memory and just feel that moment again. And so that book has now grown to 40 or 50 pages of just the one-line memories that I can always go to if I am having a down moment. I'll go flip open that book and reminding myself of, the joy.
Yeah.
That is, really the foundation of all of us.
Right. We're here to experience it, right? But we got to create it, right? It doesn't just show up. It sometimes does, but then mostly we have to make it happen, right?
But then the more important part is spreading that joy. feeling it's one thing, but it's when you spread it, that's when it really starts that fire going. And it's so simple. Just a smile could change someone's day. You just never know. One day, and I always try to connect with people wherever I go. Oh, your hair looks great. I love this. Hello, how are you? Have a heavenly day. But I told someone one day in the produce department, like, oh, I just love your hair. You look so beautiful today. And then I went on my cart with my merry way. That woman tracked me down in the grocery store, 4 or 5 aisles later, and she goes, I just have to tell you how much that meant to me for you to say that to me. It made me feel special. Thank you. I'm not trying to do this, but I'm trying to say we can all do that.
Well, and then also you could say back, please spread it,
Yeah.
say it to someone, give
Pass
it
it
to
on.
someone else. Yeah. Pass it on. That's a good term. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's not hard.
No. Tell us, what was that quote you told me earlier that I loved with Saint somebody said it?
Oh, Saint Thomas, when I was talking about we all have that light within us, what you release will save you. What you don't release will destroy you. And I think that may be the source of a lot of people's depression or inability to, break through an obstacle or, a horrible memory experience they've had in life. So joy's the answer.
Yeah, what you release will save you.
What you suppress will destroy you.
Will destroy you. That is so good. I mean, especially when we can talk deeper, like when people have trauma, people have family things that happen. Our family of origin is so important to us and our well-being, and like all of our future relationships, especially with partners, get generated, reactions get generated from our childhood experiences, and even longer experiences. My dad lived till he was 93, and even in his 80s, he was still being kind of mean, but I had to rise above it. I had to say, that's not who I am. That is just who he is expressing himself as. And I still can choose to be the light in that relationship.
Yeah. And I've come to learn when you can get into that alignment, your experiences in life are attracted to where you are currently aligned. And if you're not in a place of good alignment, you keep bringing back the pain. Things will appear in your life to emulate what you're radiating out there.
And based on what I've studied, like I've studied this book called The Law of One, Contact with Ra. And what I believe is that we come to this earth plane to evolve our souls, and the people and places, including your family members, are actually players in your play to help you evolve. So if you can choose it or not choose it, you can choose not to go past it and still live in the muck, or you can choose to rise above it and evolve beyond it. And then you learn the lesson. And a lot of times that's where your freedom lies. When you finally get the lesson and you can move on and it no longer triggers you, then you've just gone to another frequency. And the people who are not on that frequency anymore, they just go away, and you don't have to
of your diameter, your radius. They just stop appearing.
Yeah, and then people like you start appearing in my life.
And you appearing in mine too.
Because I, put myself out there in a different way, and whether it's the law of attraction or physics or whatever, that magnetizes the energetic resonance to me and you, and like we were on similar frequencies. So when you came across my channel, you were like, oh, I recognize this language, I recognize how she's speaking, I recognize how she's being, because you saw yourself in some of the stuff that I was talking about, and that drew you closer in to stick around.
And that was the midnight hour I found you too. I was in bed, it was past midnight, I was tired. I always let me check YouTube. A lot of times I used to put on rain with the subliminal messages. So y'all go looking through, what can I sleep to tonight? And then I came across you and I went, what?
Were
Wow.
you weren't like searching rebounding, it just popped up. Have you been talking about rebounding in your voice in your conversations with anybody? Because I think you said I inspired you to get your rebounder out of the
Yeah.
garage or something.
Now, I really don't remember, but I just saw you bouncing. But
AI is so crazy.
and not only were you bouncing, you were talking, the things you were saying, I was going like, we could be best friends.
There's still time, Rain.
Your whole rebounding.
There's still time. We're still alive. We've got time to become best friends. I have a feeling I know, because I understand AI, and I have a feeling I know why I popped up. And that's because I recently did a video where I was asking to meet 80 to 100-year-old people who had been eating the carnivore diet for more than 20 years. And that was the first time I mentioned the word carnivore on my channel. And I think because AI recognizes you have a page, you talk carnivore conversations.
Yeah.
And so that me talking about carnivore on my channel connected my video like, oh, here's someone talking what you're talking about. You might be interested in her. And then you just came across another rebounder or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good segue. Let's move into what you're doing today. We talked yesterday, and you said that you're really looking for someone to help you put together all these recipes that you've been tell us about since January 1, which is 2023, when you started your Carnivore Comfort Cuisine. You started posting one recipe a day, right, of your recommendations?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I'm so fascinated by that.
Absolutely. Now it might be every other day, but yeah, I'm always, well, at first I was the only thing on the page, and I kept telling people, your recipes here too. It's not
Contribute.
I'm reaching out for more. But yeah, and so it started just with recipes, but then I said, oh, well, wait a minute, I want to feed the body, heart, and soul, not just the body. So I would add my little inspirational, messages at the end of every recipe that would tie into. I would always find a quote, and just one quote, and what I would do is just like expound on that quote to make people understand what that quote meant even more, and just give them a little food for the soul. So, and that's what ended up really becoming more popular than the recipes.
Your inspiration.
I never took your food, but I just eat up your wisdom that you're sharing with all of us, and I think also the open heart, because as with every Facebook group, there can be mean people.
Yeah, and you're just authentic. You're out there being authentic and letting everyone else have freedom that they can be authentic too.
Yeah, and I really emphasize there. Every now and then I'll have to come in and say, okay, love message time. We need to be kind to one another. But I always emphasize this is a safe place. All the other carnivore sites are not necessarily safe from mean spirits.
They're
carnivore. You're sitting at my table, and there's rules of engagement when you're in my kitchen. And it starts with being happy, being kind, love, whatever the question. Love is the answer in my kitchen. So, let's just reach out to one another, and you can go fight somewhere else.
It sounds like those other sites are carnivore cannibalism. They eat
you
alive.
There's a lot of carnivore police out there. Like even with my site at first, they were going, "You're gonna get sued. You're gonna kill people. You're including herbs and spices with it." And I'm saying that's who I am.
What? Wait, why would that get you sued?
When you are hardcore carnivore, it's just like some people are beef and salt only, baby. But there's all different levels, and what I'm coming to learn is what you call a relaxed carnivore. I stay on path with the meat, dairy, eggs, fish, only, but I embellish them. If it's a side dish, it's a vegetable. That's not included. But if it's herbs, I believe in the healing power of herbs. I've got an herb garden out back, and I've always used herbs.
Me too.
The health food junkie when it wasn't cool back in the 70s and 80s. It was really funny. My dad was a hospital administrator, and
Yeah, you were around that. Let me ask you, I'm super curious. Let's tell the audience, because I don't know the answer. Why are you a carnivore? What have been the health benefits that you have experienced because you changed? And how long have you been a carnivore? Just since January?
Well, totally committed since January. I had started out ketovore a year or two before that and had some success with ketovore. Um, but it's funny, my father had a hard time fathoming that I was only eating meat, and he'd say, "Do you see what you're eating? All that fat and meat. Your arteries are going to be so clogged." And finally, I just said, "Okay, forget about it. I'm just going to, eat normal." And but I did have success with ketovore, and from ketovore, I started reading more about carnivore, which was like ketovore on steroids, to where you just really, really get disciplined and learning more about vegetables not necessarily being necessary, and studying the big guys, Andrew Chafee and Paul Saladino and Dr. Ken Berry and Susan Chow, I think is her name. I just started researching a lot. And the more I discovered, and then the befores and after stories of people with their health, with their weight, but it really wasn't so much about the weight to me. It was about the good health, because I want to be here another 30 or 40 years.
Right. Vitality. How
Yeah.
much vitality do you have in your life that you do
So,
live?
and that, the benefits were just so overwhelming. I said, okay, I had a car accident Christmas Eve of last year, totaled the car. It made me stop and realize I need to get serious now. I realized how precarious life can be. At any given moment, it could all change. So I said, I'm going to commit to this thing come January 1st, and I'm just going to go all in to see if everything I'm reading is true. And so that's what I did. And then along with that, I said, let me start a page and see if there's anyone else out there that, wants to join in the journey with me. And
because we like community. Come on.
Yeah, come on into the kitchen. And it just kind of evolved and taken a life of its own.
Tell them how many people you have in your group.
Well, now it's 16,000 plus. Back then I would text my mother, guess what? I got 30 people. I'm so excited.
I know, I get it.
Growing and growing, and like took on a life of its own.
I'm at 500 and I'm like so excited to have 500.
But it's just amazing. And the benefits, no more bone pain, no more acid reflux, no more digestive problems, no more excavation of gas from all places.
That's funny.
My skin is better. My vitality's better. I just have a whole lot more energy, and my well-being feels better too. Just always
like in mental health.
A good place, and there's just so much more. People that have greater issues are really seeing the benefits of those things, just kind of like absolving.
That's awesome.
And
I like meat. I like meat. I don't eat just meat, but I enjoy having a little bit of meat in my diet. And when I lost 90 pounds, I just ate really clean. I ate really clean. And I kind of believe that the body is looking, I said this today in my video, that if you look at the body from a cellular level and you find out what the cells need, then you address the cellular needs of the body and you create the environment that the cells want to be living in, then they'll thrive and they won't create disease. So our disease comes from putting things in our body that the environment doesn't want. And so that's why me doing this rebounding thing is like, open up your floodgates and let the trash, because your body is cleaning itself every night and getting it a fresh start. So you got to let the trash out. You got to open up the gates and let the trash collectors come in and pick up the little trash bags that have been put out in the streets overnight. And so I know that'll even include that as you get rebounding with me, it will continue to advance your health journey regarding that. I wanted to say, there you go again, help bringing people along with you to spread joy by creating that group. I mean,
No.
again, I'm just going to highlight Rene using her time, because believe me, it takes a lot of time to build these things. Her talents, she's creating videos and information and writing it all down, then also getting the community excited and motivated and inspired by her posts, using her time and talents to make lives better and thus making the world a better place. So this is who you are, and this is why I wanted to highlight you.
Well, I thank you so much. Hopefully, this will be the first of many conversations we'll have together and share
Oh
with us.
my gosh, we're such like-minded souls, and that conversation that we could be having is definitely for the Oneness Junkie podcast, because I'm all about self-development and looking inward, because my belief in what I say on like my podcast a lot of times is when we heal ourselves, we heal the world.
Right.
And compassion starts with you and me. That's who has to do it, to make compassion be prevalent in the world. But we have to do it. We have a responsibility. If we only focus on our responsibility and everybody focuses on themselves, it'll
No.
happen. Like we'll shift the planet.
Yeah.
We'll all
Start a
be
movement.
better off.
Start a
There's a
movement.
lot of movements going on.
Bouncing back to health.
That's one. Awesome. Do you want to tell the audience, first of all, if I want to just give a shout out to anyone who's, a graphic designer or someone who has experience putting together a cookbook. Rene has all the recipes, but she needs someone to help her pull it together and put it in a package so that she can have it downloadable, at least as a beginning document, so that people can access all the recipes in one place. Right now, she's got them all separated on different posts on her page, but she needs someone to help her craft that. So if anybody's out there with some time and talents and wants to provide service to Rene's mission,
That'd be great, because I'm such a dinosaur. I have a lot of creativity, but they don't apply to skills on the computer.
Exactly.
I'm so mad when my daughter was learning computer in third grade. She'd go, "Come on in, Mom, and learn this with me." I'll go, "Oh, later, honey, later." Now I wish.
It's funny because last night when I was staying up late after that 9 p.m. rebounding session that I did, I couldn't get to sleep. I was reading job opportunities on the internet, and I came across one, I'm looking for ones that would be like fulfilling to me. So I researched nonprofit companies where my time and talents could be utilized for a nonprofit that I could feel good about. And one of the ones that came up that I'm going to apply for later is AARP. So number one, I just qualified this year for 55 because I just turned 55. So I was like, okay, that matches. But but listen to what the job role was. I would be helping this this part of their company. It's called Oats. It's like older adults in technology or something like that. Oh. And so what they're doing is they're helping to inspire people who have less, they missed that gap. They got older before, and then the computers came up behind them, and then they never had the need or the reason or the opportunity to learn that. So there's like all this tech that got created behind them, and then it surpassed them, and now they can't operate simple things like pay your bill online, or do simple things like, gosh, nowadays a lot of times, like if you're going to go to a concert, like you got to get your ticket through an email, or you got to get your ticket through a text message or something. So there's all this tech that is the world is running based off of, and now the older generations who missed out just due to their sheer age of when tech came along, but I, on the other hand, I was a medical sales rep, and I left that job, 7 years doing that. And I left it to go learn tech in 2000. And I did that because I was behind the curve in 2000. So I went into a computer training company and got exposed to database administrators and web designers and all this stuff.
Oh,
And so
wow.
really for the last, at 55, I'm a little bit ahead of the curve of even my older siblings. Like I know more tech than they do, but that's because I put myself into these positions to learn it. So anyway, all I'm saying is that, you need some help. And if somebody's out there that wants to give their time and their talents to help be part of this project, I think it would be very fascinating. You could learn about what she's learning and sharing on her page while you're crafting, the Word documents or whatever, the PDFs. And you can serve the population through her mission and what she's trying to do. So let's talk about if someone wants to find you, connect with you, go to your YouTube channel. How do they search for your YouTube channel, first of all?
It's Carnivore Comfort Cuisine with Rene is the YouTube.
Okay. And that's like, it looks like Rene. It's Rene, right?
Rene.
Mm-hmm.
Been explaining it all my life.
Yes.
Short for Corrine, which is why it's pronounced that way.
Okay. Wow. What a cute name. That's unusual.
Grandma Corrine. I was named after my grandma.
Neat.
She went to heaven with her dancing shoes on too, let me tell you.
That's funny. That didn't surprise me. You come from that lineage. So, okay. So that's Carnivore Comfort Cuisine with Rene is your YouTube channel. And then how do they search for your 16,000 community of carnivores on Facebook?
It's Carnivore Comfort Cuisine on Facebook. Type that in.
Which is easy to find. Yeah. And then do you have a website, or probably not, huh? Do you have a website?
No.
Okay. So really the best way is to probably connect with you. If they want to reach out to you, don't give your phone number or anything. But if they want to reach out to you, go to Facebook, join her group, then you can message with her through the group as the admin. That would probably be the best.
Or in comments on the YouTube channel.
Yeah. And also know that this is a global platform. So somebody in India could actually be interested in helping you. There's a lot of great talent overseas, and, don't turn it down because it's good stuff. I mean, my logo right there, like Oneness Junkie with that mandala, I got that made in India.
Wow.
And I love that logo. I love the mandala. Like where that came from is I made t-shirts in 2009 with that logo because I wanted to put it on our chest like walking billboards and spread the message of oneness when you're out at the grocery store or at the movie theater or whatever. So that's why I created the shirts. But then in 2021, when I started to come up with what my podcast was going to be about, I'm like, well, I'm a Oneness junkie, and this is the kind of stuff I am and talk about. So why don't we just use that t-shirt logo and rebrand it for my podcast? And so I just used it for that. And I do have merch on my website. So anyway, my point is there's all kinds of great talent out there all over the world, and it could come to you. So let's manifest that for you so you can put that book together.
Also, I think it's important to stop for a moment and just talk about the impact you're having on the world. Are you going
to reverse interview me?
No, but I just want everyone to know it's just like you are making such a difference in the world, and I just see it really blooming and growing into something powerful and a raging fire of oneness. And hats off to you, my dear.
Aw, thank you so much. I had this vision, not for the podcast. I had the vision of opening people up to the concept of our connection and our oneness with all, including the creator, in 2009. And this was my only way to get that conversation started, was to make a t-shirt and say, what does that mean? And a lot of times I'll just describe it as, it's like a world peace message. Like you and I and everyone around the world. Number one, we're all citizens of the planet. Okay. So we're all inhabiting Mother Earth. So we're neighbors on this planet. And number two, we have more things in common as a human being than we have that are different. So the blood and the muscles and the arteries and all that stuff works the same for me and the person over in Australia. So when we understand we're more alike than we are different, we can just start being more compassionate in the world. And that's all that this whole message is meant for. And I just hope to spread more compassion in the world by highlighting all the good people like you who are out there making it happen.
Well, I like to say we're all just different blueprints of God's love.
You're so awesome. I totally agree. We're all expressing. God is expressing through us. And the brighter the light, the brighter the God light. And that's what God wants. That's what the Creator wants, is for us to shed his or her light onto as many people as possible, right?
Just keep lighting that candle.
That's right.
Pass it on.
A little gas flame to it and blow it. Have a flamethrower.
Stoves, please.
Flamethrower. All right, cool. Well, we're getting silly.
We should probably wrap it up. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's a true joy.
You're a true joy, and I'm so glad I met you. And as soon as my dog is 16, I've had her for so many years. I love her. She's right there. But I'm gonna say, whenever the time comes for her to no longer be on this earth and I'm no longer needed to care for her because I don't like to board her, so I don't travel. But as soon as that happens and I can start traveling, I'm going to come to Jacksonville, Florida, and we're going to have tea together.
All right. We'll have a whole meal together.
I want to come with you. I already feel connected. So it's great to have you on the show. So thank you for your time today.
All righty. Until we meet again, have a heavenly day.
Which is probably tomorrow morning. On my rebounding day. What am I on? Day 43 tomorrow.
All right. I'm so proud of that victory.
Oh my God. It's so much fun. I actually wake up excited to do it with y'all. Like, what's going to happen today? Who's going to get online? Who's going to get on my live?
Yeah.
So it's fun.
It's not a chore when you're sharing it.
Yeah. So if anyone's wondering what we're talking about, you can go to YouTube, Avanti Wellness Podcast, and see that I started doing live videos to help inspire other people to just start moving. So in 2024, we're going to start a movement, and you don't have to move on a treadmill because not everybody can get on a rebounder. You can sit in your chair and move your knees, move your legs, whatever you need to do that gets move your fingers. If it needs to start with circulation and getting your blood flow, and pump your fingers and get your hands pumping, get that oxygen going.
Yeah.
Breathing. You can just breathe.
Keep breathing.
Yeah. Move your lungs. And it actually pumps blood when you take deep breaths. It pushes the arteries and the veins like this and can get oxygen, because really what we're doing is we're lacking oxygen, and the more oxygen we're getting through the movement that we do, the better we feel. And I'm feeling great benefits from it.
Yeah. So onward and upward.
Onward and upward. Keep spreading joy, Rene. And thank you so much for being on my show today. And I'll have you back real soon.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you. We've reached the end of this episode. If you'd like to continue with this inspirational journey, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. If you are a self-proclaimed Oneness junkie, get yourself a t-shirt and spread the message of oneness in your community. And finally, if you have a story to share or know someone that should be a guest on this podcast, contact us at onenessjunkie.com. See you next time. And remember, when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. Compassion starts with you and me.